Hey everyone, welcome to the Human Cloud Podcast, the spot where leaders come to drive the freelance economy forward. So today we have Ryan Bettencourt. Ryan is the co-founder and CEO of LegionWorks, as well as the co-founder of Growth Collective. So the theme of this episode is how do you drive marketing outcomes at scale? Meaning, if you're the CMO, if you're the product lead, if you need to drive 10 to 30% year-over-year growth, how do you make that happen? Well, Ryan comes with us with a deep understanding of why freelance marketing channels are the tool that you need to use to get there. Now, we've had some phenomenal marketing leaders, and there are really good marketing marketplaces out there. There's also numerous ways to drive your marketing. But what's unique about Ryan and Growth Collective is the focus at the strategy level and the project execution. So what I want you to listen to is, what do I mean when I say project execution? Why can't I just go hire a marketer, whether full-time or on a large marketplace? And why can't I just go to an agency? And I'll give you a little hint. The agency is generally good at one thing, meaning the strategy or execution, whereas the Elastic Freelance Network can be good at both, or can be a handoff. And full-time, as you know, you need more than just one full-time person or the scope of what you can afford through going full-time. So there's going to be a couple things that we discussed with Ryan that I really want you to hear for, but as a whole, I want you to listen to how to drive strategy-related marketing outcomes at scale through a freelance network. All right, sit back, enjoy, and most importantly, go drive some change. Before we get started, are you stressed with self-employment taxes right now? I know I am. Well, good news. Tax season does not have to spell anxiety, because our friends at Formations have built the playbook for us self-employed professionals. They've helped thousands of individuals like us, and they don't just help with taxes. They can help with incorporation, entity management, bookkeeping, payroll, benefits, tax filing, you name it. And on average, they save us around $11,000 each year. Listen, go to formationscorp.com right now and learn how you can maximize your savings and minimize your tax stress. All right, Ryan, thanks for hopping on, bud. Whereabouts are you?
I'm in Germany right now. I spend time here, time in San Diego, where I'm from. So I'm based in San Diego, but I kind of bounce back and forth between the US and Germany right now.
Incredible. So listen, let me give you the end, okay? We're going to go end, then back. So for you listeners out there, one of the reasons that I'm so pumped for you to hear from Ryan is that you don't come to me and say, hey, Matt, I have 100 plus skills in marketing. Do you want to hire a marketing freelancer? So you didn't come into this industry saying, I'm going to build a freelance marketplace. I care about freelance marketing. You came from a marketing perspective of how do I drive growth through marketing, and freelance being one of those channels, one of those mediums, one of those tools to get there. So, for you listeners out there, what I want you to know in the back of your brain, this whole episode, is this is not about freelance, right? This is about growth, and this is about marketing as an ROI and as a value positive way to grow your company. So with that said, Ryan, do you want to do a boring corporate intro on yourself?
Yeah, of course. How much of an intro do you want me to give? How far do you want me to go?
Let's start with little baby Ryan. Let's go all the way back. In the beginning, there was. You can even go further back if you want, man. We can go pick the generation.
I won't go that far back. So I've been a marketer, business development guy, product guy, and entrepreneur for a lot of years now. And I'm from the West Coast and went to grad school on the East Coast at Babson. And came out of there and have started companies and led marketing for a series of companies. So I first ran a UI and UX agency where we weren't just designing websites. We were actually designing experiences to increase conversions for the companies we worked with. So it wasn't just like, hey, this looks pretty. It was, hey, this drives action from a visitor to become a customer. And we did a lot of UI and UX design. And that was with a good friend of mine in San Diego. And I moved on from there and was a co-founder of a company that actually, it sounds like Facebook and Instagram and all those need right now, which is it kept kids safe online. And so we built an internet browser for children, made the internet big, fun, and safe for kids, ran product marketing, et cetera, for that. Did deals with everybody you can think of in the kids space, Mattel, Leapfrog, Sega, Disney, Nickelodeon, Scholastic, et cetera. And ran all of our marketing for that, and ran a lot of the company. And that sold to Saban Brands, which is a big private equity group. So if you've heard of Power Rangers, they own that. That's where they made most of their money. They sold it, and then they bought it back from Disney. So I ran digital for them and digital marketing for them for a period of time. And that was a combination of properties, like online properties and franchises. So they own a bunch of kids brands, but they also own now a big movie studio. They owned some fashion brands, et cetera. And then started a venture studio that was within marketing tech and sales tech. And we built up a pretty nice ad tech company that was in native advertising and native marketing. So we built that up and sold that. And then came together with a group of folks that I've known for quite some time that I've done various businesses with, partnerships with, and we created a company called Legion. And the idea with Legion was that over the last 15 years of building companies, we've gone through what everybody's gone through in trying to build companies, whether you're tiny or you're big, which is like, how the heck do I grow this thing, right? How do I grow this thing from 0 to your first million? But then how do you grow from 1 million to 10? And then how do you grow from beyond there? And we believe that we came up with a pretty good playbook of how to do that. And so we started Legion to piece together a series of tools and services, and soon a community that helps companies grow. So we say Legion is a company that helps ambitious companies grow, and Growth Collective is a key part of that. Is a key part of that. We actually started and running Growth Collective because the most important part of growth and the most important part of growing is the people that you have to help you grow. And so I've been doing marketing for a long time. There's a lot of tactical, executional tips I can give that I've learned. There's a lot that I can give in terms of how to go into a company and look and see how to grow. The number one thing is, do you have the right people executing it, right? If you have the wrong people executing your marketing plan will not be successful. There's not a chance it'll be successful. So, that's my background. I've been a mentor at various accelerators. I've been an investor, as I said, I'm based in San Diego, but spending quite a bit of time in Europe right now these days, and quite a bit of time in San Diego and Chicago and New York and other places. So try to get around.
I love it. So listen, we're this is the first time we're going to do this, Ryan. So, and this is uniquely you. So I'm going to combine these two segments. Okay, I'm going to call them first the sandwich, then the burn book. Do you have any idea what I'm going to do to you over the next 2 minutes?
No, I have no idea.
Okay, so
I've never heard those two words used in the same sentence. So no.
I know. This is the first time it's ever happened. So I'm going to give you one hint. You went to school in Boston, so I think you can take this. So if I tell you that it's going to be a unique Boston experience, what do you think is going to happen?
It's going to be direct, and it's going to be somewhat gruff exterior, soft interior. I don't know. Are you going to grill me?
Yeah.
Are you going to be very? Yeah.
No. Yeah. So okay. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a compliment. Okay. And then I'm going to grill you. And then we're going to end with a compliment. Okay.
Okay.
I can't promise we're going to end with a compliment because I am from Boston, right? I grew up there. So I can't act like I have nice soft edges. But so the first compliment is going to be that you weren't a bullshit marketer, right? You are a technical marketer. And so that's going to be my quick compliment. Okay. Now don't
Thank you.
blush, keep your head small, because now I'm going to grill you. So
Really. All right.
when I think marketing, right, I'm going to tell you a couple experiences. And because the general feeling that I had about marketing was ick. Okay. Now I'm going to tell you about my first experience was in college picking an undergrad major. Marketing said that was the easy major, right? So I said, okay, I don't want that one. I went accounting and finance, which was useless. But so, I'm a hypocrite. But so that was the first one. Second one was I go to San Francisco. I'm at a rocket ship startup. We raised $22 million from Andreessen, a bunch of people. And one of the things we prided ourselves in was we had no marketing people. Now, that was cool until it wasn't cool, because once the leads drawn up, we had no idea how to get new ones. So that was the second one, though, was being prideful in we are tech, we are product, right? We don't need any marketing. We're just going to build tech. Yep. Then I'm going to just combine it. And so I'm going to use the Babson example, Ryan, is eTower. If I saw one more iPhone case with good marketing, I was going to puke. And last thing is, when I'd go to YouTube, I'd see Ty Lopez talking about marketing, and that guy made me sick. And so there's my burn book aspect of marketing is one of those subjects that can feel like it's so full of shit, right? Yes. And so made up. Yeah. So now I want to give you a compliment in that I think you're going to be able to answer these questions. And the first is, how do we define marketing? And you're going to give us a state of marketing, but how do we define it? How do we measure success? And then what has changed? So now over to you. I apologize for the insults, but I knew you could handle it with your Boston background.
Yeah. So first, I totally agree. I'll answer your questions, but I totally agree. I think the challenge with marketing historically has been that it's been done by folks that are overly promotional, that try to win by being overly superfluous, try to win with the crutch that nobody knows if it's effective or not, right? Like historically, nobody really knew if marketing was effective. You knew their business grew, but you didn't know why. That's all changed, right? And so the people and the capabilities required to win in a world where you actually do know if your marketing is working or not is a totally different kind of person, right? You still need to be able to get across the value that you're providing. You still need to do that in a way that sounds good, appeals to folks, but you also really need to understand how to look at the math and the science of marketing in a way that you never used to have to do, and in a way you never used to be able to do, right? Everything used to be brand marketing. I mean, then we got direct response, mail, et cetera, but everything used to be brand. And then as we've gone and as online marketing has evolved, we now know whether the marketing is working or the marketing is not working. And that takes a different kind of person. So how do I define marketing? Marketing is taking the problem that you're solving and figuring out how to take the solution that you have to that problem and communicate it to the right people at the right time, right? So everybody is trying to solve, well, hopefully, as you have a company, you're trying to solve a problem for a set group of people, right? And you have to deliver a message to those people that they understand that you're solving their problem and that they're receiving the message that you're solving their problem at the right time, right? So if you're delivering the wrong message, you're delivering it to the wrong people, or you're delivering it at the wrong time, then your marketing is going to be ineffective. But if you're delivering the right message to the right people at the right time, and then I'm assuming that your product is going to solve their problem. That is the assumption, right? Then your marketing should be effective. So when you look at the bias in Silicon Valley for a long time, and I actually had the same bias for a period of time, right? Like, for a period of time, it was if you build the product well enough, good enough, you don't need marketing, right? And by the way, Google, Facebook, et cetera, thought the same way for many years and thought the same thing about design, right? So for a long time, Google did not have designers on staff, right? Like the design was something that, the weak people did. Like it was all heavy tech, right? That has changed. Marketing and embracing of marketing has changed. Now, I do think as you build products that we still have it wrong a lot, that what people do is they'll build a product and then they'll solve the marketing. That's the wrong way around. Like the best product people solve the marketing while they're building the product, right? And those two are connected. But so that would be my definition of marketing. Again, delivering the right message to the right people at the right time to show them that you're solving their problem with your product. I apologize. That was too long-winded to remember your second question.
No, that was good. I was hoping you would actually just instead show me a mansion and a flashy car and say, "Don't you want this?" Just kidding. So let's because there's two directions that I don't know which one to go first. But so direction one, and I'm going to tell you in the order. I'm going to tell you in reverse order of what I hope you go in. But so direction one is y'all acquired a company that is one of the leaders in the marketing space for marketing freelancers. And, one direction is, what have you learned since acquiring, right? But the second direction, which I think might be the way, I hope you try to choose this way. But so the second is just in general, how does marketing play in with the freelance economy? What is the big deal? And I want to just give some quick data. So when looking at sort of my life of seeing over $100 million go through the pipes of freelance channels, over 70% of that is usually marketing related. It gets bucketed as marketing or creative. And, the exact numbers at some programs were 78%, 84%. And so there already is a acknowledgement that, hey, there are these large marketplaces that I can go find a cheap marketer, right? Yeah. And then, the second thing is related to that is, listen, if I want to go find someone cheap, why not just put a post on LinkedIn saying, I want a freelance social media person, right? And so, I think the direction that I think would be most helpful is how does the freelance economy come into marketing, right? What's the big deal? Why are we even talking about freelance marketing? And also, why isn't the existing alternatives enough, right? Why isn't a large marketplace enough?
I mean, So well, we're marketers, so that's obviously we find marketing and marketing services appealing, right? Because we need them. We assume other people need them, and we think we're the right people to execute that. But we also look at other opportunities and other businesses, et cetera, right? Because we can apply our marketing expertise to other businesses as well. But we think marketing is very specifically tied to freelance today, now, and it's necessary. And the reason why is if you need to hire somebody at a company, right? You need them to do a job. You need them to do a job. You need to have them do that job pretty well. So if you're hiring somebody in finance, right, to do your accounting, right, you can generally find somebody that does accounting. Now, how they do that accounting may be slightly different, but there's gap accounting, right? There's, you can do accounting a couple different ways, but you can find somebody to do your accounting, right? There aren't a ton of different ways to do accounting. It's a little bit the same with development, right? So if you think about development, once you figure out your product plan, you know exactly what needs to get built. And you just need to go find the person that has the skill set to build that, whether it be the framework they're using, the language they're using, et cetera. Marketing is a completely different animal. And particularly marketing today is a completely different animal, because the reality is that it used to be that you would hire a marketer. I'm the director of marketing, right? I am the CMO. I run marketing. And that used to be enough, right? And that used to be enough, not too long ago. And then online marketing came around, and then we had these titles of people, director of online marketing, director, online VP of digital, VP of online marketing, etc. Right? And that person was generally capable of being able to market enough to the channels that were available that they could satisfy that part within a company. Over the last 10 years, and now it's escalated at even a faster rate, there's no way you can hire a generalist at a company that can test various channels, understand when the channels are being effective and when they're not for what you're trying to do as a company and the growth that you need, and then know when those channels are effective, and then be able to scale those channels when you determine that they are effective. Anybody that tells you that they can do more than a couple of marketing channels is you're hiring somebody that is not best in class at what they do, right? So if you're hiring at a company a full-time role, right, it would be so great if you could hire a VP of digital marketing or a director of online marketing, and that person could do all the work. It would be so great. It would make our life so much easier. But think of all the channels now, right? Social. What does that even mean? Like if you have a director of social, that person, do they do paid social? Do they do organic social? Within organic social, which social do they do? Within paid, which social do they do? And each one of those has a very different skill set to make those effective. So the challenge with marketing is also the opportunity with marketing as something that we need to embrace as the solution being to hire fractional and freelance people, right? So the solution to the challenges of marketing we see are and will increasingly be that you need to hire experts in each channel and even within each sub-channel. Because if you're not actually proving whether that channel is going to be effective or not for your business. You're only proving whether you have somebody that knows what the heck they're doing or not, right? So if you have somebody that's doing paid search, what we see all the time is somebody says, oh, paid search doesn't work for us. Is that because paid search does not work for that company? Is paid search not work for that message? Or do you just have the wrong person doing paid search? And by the way, do you mean that by paid search, do you mean Google? Do you mean other platforms of paid search? Paid social, it's not working for us. It is working for us. Again, do you have the wrong person or the right person doing that? So we believe that freelance is the answer of what it's required to be able to do your marketing. But then also the existing platforms that are out there prior to Growth Collective, and even now, we believe don't tackle it solely as an obsession with marketing and growth. And so they don't understand, one, how to attract the best marketers to do the work. They don't know how to vet those marketers. They don't know how to hold those marketers accountable to the client. Ultimately, our customer is the client of our freelancers. That's our customer. And we have to be good enough in vetting our talent so that we can go to our clients and say they can trust our talent. We also have to be good enough at marketing to understand when our freelancers may not do a great job and correct that by working with that freelancer, finding that client a new freelancer. The existing platforms out there cannot do that. They're not digging in. They don't know when their freelancers are performing well or not. They're not doing the extra vetting. There are a couple of companies that are doing it, and we have some unique advantages, we believe, against those as well. But for the larger, well-known, what we call more generic freelance platforms, they don't have that capability.
So what's super interesting to hear is there's a couple of things that I have written down in my notes, but let me just kind of play back. And one of them is that in marketing right now, not 10 years ago, it's not enough to have one person. You need multiple areas of expertise covered. Kind of like you need to have this surface area of expertise. And 10 years ago, like you mentioned, a CMO or a VP of marketing would be good enough at all of them. But now there's just such deviation within each type of tool that you need the expert in that. Now, a second thing, though, is that there's massive risk in this because it was good to have the generalist in that you covered this broad surface area, where now you might pick option A, but you really should have picked option F. And so more so than you need this individual, you need this collective of individuals. And you need this, I mean, this was the premise of what, for me, when Freelance, when my eyes popped, and this was as early as 2012, was this elastic network of expertise that you could pull in a way that was best for both parties. Because just like how you as the employer don't need the same skill or expertise in month 7 as you might do in month 1, as the individual, you also don't need to be sitting in a job for the rest of your life.
Right.
Now, let me ask a kind of funny question. Why doesn't this already exist?
I think we're at we believe the timing is we're at the intersection of a bunch of things going on in marketing with a bunch of things going on in the world of work. So we think for periods of time, right? Like people were just trying to find affordable ways to get what we consider to be commoditized tasks done, right? If I have a commoditized task, if there's a task that basically the skill set to complete that is commoditized, then I'm going to try and find a way to do that for the cheapest possible, right? And so that's really the start of a lot of the freelance platforms. Now they're trying to evolve, like the generic ones. They're trying to evolve. They're trying to be better than that and beyond that, right? But that's where it started, right? Take commoditized tasks, find somebody that can do it as cheaply as possible, as quickly as possible, right? And there is only a certain number of companies that were comfortable, quote, outsourcing to those folks, right? So if you fast forward in terms of the world of work, that's all changed, right? So now actually, we believe that some of the most talented people in the world, and anything, right? Not just in marketing, but in anything, they want to work for themselves, right? Like, I think in a conversation you and I had, there was a quote used that people will come back to the office when it's worth coming back to the office, right? Meaning if there's enough value that somebody sees to do their job well or social or something else, they'll come back to the office. Like, so much has changed that some companies have embraced it because they see the tremendous value in being more flexible with the way that they think about staffing, et cetera. Some people have been forced. Some companies have been forced there. However, they've gotten there. The reality is more and more companies are comfortable and recognize the benefits now. I think we're still seeing a lot of companies that are kind of like getting there a little bit more in a delayed manner, right? They're still trying to hold on to things. But I think we are seeing more and more companies understand the great attributes and benefits of hiring in a more flexible manner. So I think we're seeing the world of work change. Companies start to understand, okay, we need to rethink about our strategic staffing, right? Like, how do we staff a company? How do we grow the company? How do we support the company? I think there are more and more companies that are embracing that, and they're looking more and more to some combination of full-time and fractional or freelance, however you term it. So that's what's going on in the freelance. And in marketing, it's just becoming more and more fragmented, all the different ways that you can grow a business in terms of marketing. And so that means that you have so many channels and sub-channels. Like, even if we think of SEO, there might be somebody really good at SEO that does keyword research and can figure that out, that knows nothing about technical SEO, that knows nothing about content, the content side of SEO, right? I mean, there's so many different skill sets within that, right? That there's so many different channels that you can go after, that we believe, just like happened in technology, right? So at first there were only a couple frameworks, a couple languages. Now there's so many frameworks, so many languages, etc., that people needed to start going out and finding fractional and freelance, because they needed to find a JavaScript developer when that was big, or Ruby on Rails when that was so popular, right? So much of the freelance platforms were helping people find Rails developers, right? The same thing is happening with marketing. There are other, like, we don't want to be the only people in the market, right? Like, if you're the only people in the market solving the problem, that it's probably not a problem we're solving. There are other people solving the problem. We think we're doing so in a way that we, I think, are trying to be more authentic to our freelancers. I think we're trying to create a business model that we think is fair and works for more parties in the equation of a client working with a freelancer. We believe that we are marketers ourselves and dig in to really figure out the connection between the freelancer and the client. We think we're doing a good job of combining tech with sort of manual human relationships and finding the right freelancers. So there are a lot of areas where we think we differentiate. But over the next 5 or 10 years, we very much see, if you fast forward 5 years, I think you will see a marketing organization at just about every company in most countries that will have a combination of full-time staff and fractional and or freelance staff. That's just the way the world's going.
So we're gonna do something funny, right? So we're gonna do a what I'm gonna call a mind share demo of what this looks like at scale. And what I mean by that is, what does good freelance marketing look like at scale? And I'm going to give you 2 alternative scenarios. And I really, really, really want to be very selfish to you CMOs out there, in terms of, I want to put ourselves in the CMO lens. And for you non-CMOs, I'm sorry, but you're going to be really better off by hearing from the CMO lens. So I'm going to give you 2 alternatives. So right now, if my directive was to drive growth by 15% month over month or year over year, there's really two things that are going on in my head. There's 3 things that are going on in my head right now. Option 1 is, I work with HR and I try to unlock, let's say, about $1 million a year of budget to hire full-time. And it's going to take me 3 to 6 months to find the perfect person. I'm going to do a bunch of interview loops, and I don't really know what I'm looking for that much. So I'm just going to go based off of the school they went to, who they know, and a couple bullet points. So I don't really like that option. Option 2 is, I'm going to go to a marketing agency, and I actually might be pretty well taken care of. But it definitely is not going to be cheap. And I doesn't feel like we're actually hitting the milestones, even though we have really good presentations. And now option 3 is, I'm going to take it in my own hands, and I'm going to unlock budget for my team and for myself. And I'm going to say, hey, go use one of the many marketplaces. But real quick, I'm going to realize that I can't manage these people. I don't know really what I'm looking for. We kind of have like a 30% success rate. They are kind of cheaper, but it feels it feels unorganized is the way I would put it. It feels like all over the place.
Absolutely.
So those are the 3 options in my head right now as a CMO, and then helping CMOs that I always have to deal with. So now let's literally help me understand. I got $1 million of budget. I got to get 15% year over year, or else it's my neck on the chopping block. What should I be doing?
Yeah. So option 1 to us is going to be unfruitful. You're gonna hire generalists, or you're going to do equally challenging is you're going to hire people when you don't know what channels you're going to go after for specific channels, and now you're going to be tied to those folks for a long period of time, and your channel may or may not work, but you still have those people, right? Option two, we actually work closely with a lot of agencies. We believe agencies are very good for supporting companies in their growth. We also think, and some of the agencies we're closest with are brand agencies, right? Are those that are helping their clients figure out who the right ICP is, who the right target market is, figure out the right story to tell, right? And agencies that do that really well are going to set up their clients for really great success. And that's why we partner with them, right? Is because they can craft a really great story. We have freelancers that can do that as well, but they craft a really good story. They craft a really good brand. And then we come in and we activate that, right? So we think some combination, if the CMO feels like that the messaging and the brand isn't correct, I would actually go to a brand agency and get that right, or hire a fractional person on Growth Collective. But I wouldn't skip that step, right? Because again, the right audience with the right message at the right time. If you have the wrong message, you have the wrong brand, you have the wrong consistency in the brand message you're trying to send. You need somebody to do that, right? So option two, I would, as a CMO, really ask, do we feel like we have the right brand that's going to resonate with the audience that we feel is our target audience, right? You may have to go to an agency in addition to us. You may have to go to just us, depending on the answer to that question. Now, for us, what most people do when they have $1 million is they will say, most CMOs do, is they will say, well, we need to spend money on paid search. We need to spend money on SEO. We need to spend money. So I'm going to go in and I need to get an SEO person, and I'm going to get a paid search person, and I'm going to get an influencer marketing person, and I'm going to get an email marketing person, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to hire all these freelancers, and I'm going to have them do that. That is equally challenging for a variety of reasons, right? First is, should you be testing those channels? Are those the right channels? Are those channels effective for companies in your industry and in the verticals that you operate in, and the messaging that, like, we know that, like, and hopefully CMOs know that, but they might not, right? So you can't just go say, we got to be in all these channels, right? Number two is, what typically people do is they have an interaction with each of those people. They may actually have a billing relationship with each of those people, and they may have a management of each of those people. And that is a mess. Like, it doesn't solve anything that you're trying to solve. So we believe, and this is the big push that we're making at Growth Collective, is the better thing is to come up with, for a specific focus, is to come up with a bespoke team that can help drive that 15% growth, right? So for us, what we spend our days now thinking about and talking to customers and clients about is, what is your goal? Your goal is 15% growth. That may be the CMO's goal. Another CMO's goal may be to see if the US market is a good market for them. Another CMO's goal is, hey, we're a food company and we're launching a new food product, right? Or, hey, we're a beverage company, we're launching a new beverage. Their goal may be to launch something, right? Launch a new product. In all of those cases, we believe that the best solution is the same thing, which is a bespoke team for that particular effort. And what that looks like is somebody that helps the CMO pull together the pieces of that. So that could be a fractional project manager or a fractional leader, depending on the skill set of the CMO. And then establishing a clear testing process of testing a series of channels along with us. So what that means is, we're going to test paid search using Google, paid search using Bing, paid search or social using LinkedIn, because we're B2B. We're going to use influencer marketing in the B2B space, which does exist and is actually can be quite effective. And we're going to do email marketing. Those are the channels we're going to test, right? So we have the CMO hires somebody to help build out that strategy. How much are we going to spend? What does success look like, et cetera, et cetera? How much budget are we going to allocate to each? And then you have experts, a part of your bespoke team, that are going to help you execute that. and not BS whether those channels are working. Your goal is not to make sure those channels work. Your goal is not to make sure that paid search works on Google, on LinkedIn, on Bing, et cetera, et cetera. Your challenge is as quickly as possible have the best experts that can determine whether those are good channels for you to deliver the right messaging to the right people at the right time, right? So you would spend the first 3 months doing that, finding the channels. You would then take the channels that are working and scale those. The channels that aren't working, it depends on how much you can scale the channels that are working. If those scale enough to get your 15% growth, then you focus on those 1 or 2 channels that are working. If those don't scale enough, you need to go test 2 more channels or 3 more channels, whatever it is. Because your goal is to find the channels that work. Not every channel is going to work for every company, for every message to reach the target audience that you. And so bespoke teams are, in our opinion, the solution. Now, what does a bespoke team mean? That means folks that can execute in those channels using the tools needed to execute in those channels, but also have an understanding of that particular geography, have an understanding of that particular vertical, right? So if you're a fintech company and you just hire anybody to do paid search, right? And within this, you're hiring this team, and you just hire somebody who does paid search, somebody who does paid social, somebody does. Well, those people may not know the regulatory hurdles. They may not know what works. They may not know what you can and can't say. They may not have any experience in fintech. The same in biotech. The same in pharmaceuticals. The same in all these industries. So when we talk about a bespoke team, what we like to do and what we think the best solution is, come up with your testing schedule and make sure you have experts in those particulars. So you're not proving whether you have good enough people to do it, but you're proving the channel. And then make sure you're finding folks wherever they are in the world that have an understanding of fintech or have an understanding of e-commerce or the sporting goods industry, et cetera, et cetera. That's the key. And that's where we're spending a tremendous amount of our time and energy, is working with companies, working with startups, big brands, et cetera, around product launches, around entering new geographies and markets, around hitting 15% growth, to build the bespoke teams that can come in and do that together in a flexible way.
So, incredible. So the last question I'm going to have, just to give you a teaser, and then I'm going to respond to that. The last question is going to be, help me understand the minimum investment and the expected timeline. Okay. Now, let me just add some color to what you were saying. So what I hear from that is there's a clear playbook. Now, within that playbook, the tools and the scenarios are different, but there is a clear playbook. And one of the major problems that organizations have, meaning the teams in themselves. And so let's look at a company like Microsoft. Microsoft is 100 different startups, and then it's 5 different large companies within one. And so the Xbox team, the Office team, all have different things. But so I'm saying it from that lens of they each need to have their own playbook. And then from what you were telling me, I mean, and one of the most difficult parts is if I just go to a large marketplace, or if I just try to do this full time, then I can't do the playbook. I can't build the playbook and execute it. I can maybe do one, but I can't build it strategically and then execute it. And that's, when I made fun of the agency, what I really meant to make fun of is the fact that agencies are very good at what they do, but there generally is a gap from strategy to execution, where if you're really good at the strategy, you're not good at execution. Yeah. And one of the dirty secrets in large companies for the past, 20 years is they have just outsourced to cheaper areas and kind of forced their way into getting something because they had 20 people at 1/100th the cost. But so the playbook that I heard you say was step 1, you align on the brand. And one of the beautiful parts was you didn't say just post a project, right? You said an actual 4-step process, which that first step might mean don't go to you, right? Yeah. That first step might be go to one of your partner agencies. The second step was scoping strategically. And you said something very quickly that I want to make sure I caught. Understand the comparables, right? So what has happened in a similar situation? Step 3 was bespoke teams, which is what we're talking about with an elastic freelance network. And step 4 was the clear testing, which when you brought up was around 3 months. But so now sort of our last segment is I want you to dig into what does this look like from an investment? Because it's quite simple. The only good thing, or not the only, but the easy part about options 1 through 3 is that there is a comparable. I know what a CMO is going to cost me, and I can easily say this is market rate, below market rate, above market rate. I know what a 1 to 5 year marketer costs me, so that's easy. Same with agencies, the costs, they're kind of known. And then on a marketplace, I know I can get someone to do my social for $1,000 a month. I know I can get someone to do my SEO for this. So help me now understand. Let's tie this all together. What does the investment typically look like? Meaning the minimum investment, the time commitment, and then also help me understand if I have all the money in the world, what do I do? But so yeah, over to you.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, the initial question was about I'm a CMO with $1 million, right? And I got to get 15% growth, right? I think that's the wrong way to look at it. I think the right way to look at it is where are we currently at? How do you get 15% growth? And then what is the budget required to get there based on some comparables, right? Based on benchmarks for your industry, benchmarks for those channels, et cetera. You can build up a pretty good plan based on that, right? So if I'm looking at it and I say I have $1 million and I have to grow I have to grow to get 15%, I have to grow $3 million to get that 15% growth. Now I need to get a 3x return, including the people, right, to get there. And so, we think that's a somewhat easy plan to put together, right? Because you just take spend and typical benchmarks, how much the folks cost, and you add that together. Now, I think when you do that scenario, right, if you're hiring folks on a fractional basis, freelance basis, you're going to have a much higher likelihood of hitting that 15% growth with the $1 million that you have than if you hire full-time folks, right? It's just the reality, right? Is you're going to have a higher likelihood. Now, to answer your question, in terms of budget and how much this is going to cost, it really depends on how much growth that you need to get, right? And where you currently are. And it's always a matching game, right? It's always like, okay, you are doing $1 million in revenue, and you want to get to $2 million in revenue, and you want to do that within 12 months. This is generally how much that's probably going to cost, right? And this is how we would recommend that it be flighted over that year to get there, right? Because you got to get the testing executed as quickly as possible. So that might be a pretty large budget. I don't know, right? To get to $1 million to $2 million, I'd have to look at benchmarks. I'd have to look at the benchmarks of the industry. I'd have to look at the benchmarks of the particular channel that you're marketing in, et cetera. And that's why the fact that we're marketers running this, we know how to do that, right? Now, if you're a $25 million company trying to go to 30 million, if you're a $300 million company going to 320 million, right? The budgets are all going to be different. But this is what I would say. Number one is if you have more budget, you have the ability and the luxury to test more channels simultaneously than if you have less budget. Because the key is in any optimization, in any testing, you need to have enough data, right? So if you have more budget, then you have the luxury of simultaneously testing 4 or 5 channels, right? Whether it be a product launch and you have a lot of budget behind that, or you're going into the US market from the UK and you want to put quite a bit of budget into that, now you're going to have the luxury of testing quite a few channels. If you don't have a large budget, you may only be able to test 1 or 2 channels, and you may have to test those. You may have to test those sequentially. So you may have to test 2 channels, then 2 channels, then 2 channels. You may not be able to do it simultaneously. In terms of timing, we believe that you should give at least 3 months to any channel, whatever the channel is, to see if it's effective or not, right? Now, you can fudge a little bit up or down from that depending on the channel. SEO takes longer until you see the results of that. Paid search, you can generally have an understanding in less time, right? So you generally have to know what those channels are. If I were a company that was trying to go from, so you said 15%, if I were trying to go from 10 million to 11,500,000, right, and I had the full year and a decent budget, that I had and $1 million of a budget, I would do 3 or 4 channels based on that budget, and I would test those channels for, on average, 3 months. I would do SEO for 5 or 6 months because it takes that period of time. I would do paid search for 2 months. I would do paid social for 2 months, and that's how I would build the plan, right? So you have enough data and enough time to execute it. At the end of that, then you're going to look at paid search and say, the ROAS here is this, the ROAS for paid social is this. Okay, let's start adjusting. And at the end of that, the goal is that within somewhere between a 4 and 6 month period, you have enough data that you understand the channels, you understand 2 channels that are going to work, and you can scale those up, right? Because now you still have 8 months, 6 months to scale those to be able to really get growth. And now you're going to get 15% growth in that year, but your run rate is going to be even higher than that, if that makes sense. Again, each one's a little bit different. That's why bespoke teams are so good, and that's why we stay involved and we help build those plans, right? Is to understand that.
If you so we set the stage for episode 2 and 3 and 4 in terms of what I was really hoping for, which is what we got to, is what is the big deal with marketing? Meaning, why do I care beyond my existing channels? And for a lot of leaders, we only have a certain amount of time, right? Yeah. And so when we think, okay, how do we optimize our time? Just hire a CMO, right? Or just go with an agency. So the last question that I want to leave you with, and I'm going to intentionally
can I point one thing to what you just said? Yeah. It's something I haven't mentioned is it's why now on a macro level in terms of marketing and what's happening in marketing. It's why now on a macro level what's happening in work. But it's also why now on a macro level what's happening in the economy, right? And ultimately, in a world where debt is cheap and where raising venture capital is easy, right? You can patch up a lot of holes, right? Where you aren't actually having ROI positive marketing. You don't have to, and sometimes, like if a company raises $100 million in VC money, their job is to spend that, right? So even if they're upside down on that, right, it's not going to have the same impact as when it's really hard to raise and you can't raise $100 million. And it's the same with debt, like with cheap debt, right? Like companies taking on debt to finance some of their growth, right? Like both of those things right now are not true, right? Debt is not cheap right now and raising capital is not easy right now. So on a macro level, literally right now, this month, the next 3 months, the next 12 months, nobody knows where the economy is going. And now is a perfect time to embrace freelance and fractional because it is the right thing to do over the long haul, but it's also the necessary thing to do right now. And you need experts. Why Growth Collective makes so much sense is you need experts that do that because you can't patch up when your ROI is upside down. Like when you're losing money, you have experts not driving ROI. You can't pass that up when you can't raise more money and you can't take on more debt.
Yep. Yep. It's one of those, I will say the only good thing about product, and product meaning the development side, not the PM, but you can sometimes dig yourself out of a hole from a product perspective. But from a marketing side, if you don't have the money to put towards it, it's tougher, right? Product, I can just go in a bunker for a week at no cost, ship something, and it could, right? There's a better chance of magic. Whereas marketing, you need to have a better plan, which comes back to you can't just go with what's always worked right now.
Yeah.
Right?
And
10 years ago.
Yeah. And where does marketing begin and end, right? I mean, the best thing that you could do right now in this economy, in any economy, is hold on to more of your customers and get them to be more loyal and pay more, right? Because you're solving a bigger problem for them, right? That's marketing, right? Retention, marketing, keeping your customers is the number one way to grow. So the number one thing when you ask a question, how you grow 15%, the first place I would start is, can you hold on to your customers for longer? And can you charge them more by adding additional value to solve additional problems for them? That's the number one. And that's marketing. We have retention marketing folks. We have CRO folks, right? Within growth, because that's a huge, very important part of marketing that people often forget about.
Right. Well, listen, listeners out there, it's pretty. So the next question is going to be most important, Ryan, and that is literally just, where can our listeners find you?
Yeah, I mean, they go to growthcollective.com. They can find Growth Collective there. They can find me at ryan@growthcollective.com. Again, Ryan, RYAN, at growthcollective.com. They can find me on my LinkedIn. I've been spending so much time on some of the product side and with some of our customers, but I'll be sharing more thoughts and more tips, et cetera, there. We also do have a couple other companies, because Legion is a platform to help ambitious companies grow. And we've got products, Hellobar, subscribers, Dealify, which is a platform that shares other growth marketing products. So you can find us there. And we actually are starting a community for growth folks, and we are starting a newsletter for growth folks. So lots of places to find us.
I love it. All right, Ryan, thank you so much for hopping on, bud.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. Great to see you.
Thanks for listening to the Human Cloud podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we enjoyed recording it. Now, listen, I want to just give a brief overview of what we do at Human Cloud, because we believe that we are the global town square for the freelance revolution. Now, what that means is that we are the strong voice of the freelance community. Both you freelance platform leaders, you enterprise freelance leaders, meaning you hiring freelancers, as well as, most important, the freelancers yourselves. And we also have the data for freelance leaders to make sound decisions. So how can you get involved? Well, we have a phenomenal community. We have study groups. We have a trend tracker database. We host workshops. And we would love for you to consider us for advisory and consulting. For more, go check out humancloud.work. See everyone soon.